Okay, so what did you all come to hear from? A lot of you wanted to hear from fantastic speakers today. So the MilSpouseFest team is so thrilled to introduce Krista Wells. She is a military spouse and a life coach, and she's going to walk us through the easy way to make our dreams reality. She's a mom of 4 kids. She lives this lifestyle just along with the rest of us, and she's super relatable and super fun, and I can't wait to hear her speech. So Krista, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I am super duper excited to be here. And I am just been obsessed with the word easy lately. I feel like when I was on my first slide, I show that my own path was a lot of swimming upstream. So I'm hoping today that I can like throw you guys a raft and pull you along and not have learn from my mistakes and not have it be as feeling like like a swimming upstream. So years ago, I was at a party and this innocent dude came up to me and said, "What do you do?" And I remember that I froze. My husband was like, "I'm in logistics, I'm in the Marines." He had this like eloquent answer of like every little technical thing that he did. And I literally was sitting there frozen because the reality was that I was not wanting to work because I was going through infertility treatments. And I didn't want to tell this dude that. I was spending a lot of time at Target buying placemats and then returning them like a couple of days later. And I was looking for a job, finally got a job that was what I considered to be a part-time job it was a full-time job with part-time pay. And it was called a part-time job, but I was really working a lot of hours and I hated it. So I didn't feel like when he said, "What do you do?" I didn't even want to bring up my bad job. So I feel like in hindsight now, I feel like I can say I'm a life coach, I'm a writer, but it took me 20 years to come up with an answer for that party. So what I decided was that if I was going to go back in time, what I would want to do is figure out why it was so hard for me to figure out what to do. And on the next slide, I'm going to talk about that. What I sort of learned was that it wasn't just about getting a job. And it was also looking at why did my husband have such an easy time? Well, I was making him lunch. Once we had kids, I was doing the baths. I was doing a lot of the support role. So I felt like his job was easy because all he had to do was the job. Not that it's easy, but I feel like it's really hard to support those that serve. And that in itself, you're already that. So what I could have told the guy at the party was, I support those who serve, and that's pretty awesome, probably better than his bigwig job. So I feel like before you even look for a career and a new job today, I want you to really have it sink in that you're already doing a job. You are enough without employment, like you're already supporting those who serve. So that's like just amazing. The other thing is that so many people come to me with wanting career advice and they start with, I'm just a mom. I just work part-time. I just volunteer. I just did these couple jobs, doing makeup, or I just did some photography. I just blog. Well, whatever's at the end of that just is something pretty spectacular. Because I just blogged for 10 years and then I got a book deal. I have people that just did makeup and now they're doing wedding makeup. I have people that just were taking pictures for fun of their kids and now they're a professional photographer. So we have to let go of that feeling and just lean into you're already enough. And it sounds silly, but when you wake up, the first thing I want you to do tomorrow morning, when you wake up and you look in the mirror and you're brushing your teeth, because you have to remember that you're looking in the mirror, you have to say, I'm already enough. Because so much of these big jobs are big confidence. It's not about knowing every single skill. And we'll get into that the nitty gritty of that a little bit later, but you're already enough. And you have so many transferable skills, packing up a house and moving it, getting your kids to readjust. You already have a gazillion skills. So it's just us together with MilSpouse and you sitting down and getting some of those skills down on paper and turning them into something where you can believe that you're capable of getting a high paying job and achieving that job. Next slide. So after you kind of absorb this, I'm already doing enough. I'm already awesome. I'm the reason my spouse is successful is because I'm this huge support And I'm in the process, and it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm in the process of making my life easier. You're going to start to visualize what it is that you want in terms of work. You have to visualize the job and spend time thinking about what you really want before you just go out and apply for anything. I feel like you should be in the driver's seat and you should be looking for the job you want, not having someone come to you and say, hey, I have an opportunity. And a lot of those opportunities that we see where, hey, you can make 6 figures in 1 month, sign up here. A lot of those can be gimmicky. So I feel like it's really important to come up with your vision of your talents and skills and abilities, and then come up with a plan. And the plan can be easy plan, not a hard, overwhelming plan. And then taking small, positive baby step actions towards that plan. And when I say baby steps, I mean like really small steps. So I had someone that wanted to work in a library, and I said, okay, we're going to have a plan A and a plan B. To work in a library, you needed a master's, I think, in research, and she was not finished with her undergrad. I said, but we're going to have a plan A job, and then the B job is going to be a down the road goal. So on her vision board, she might put a picture of a down the road job, but right now her job, she applied to work in the children's section of the library where you don't need a master's degree. So that was her baby step. It was working a few hours a week. She was able to bring her child with her to work, which was incredible because that was one of our goals, was how do we watch a child and go to work. So she's able to bring her little one to work in the children's section just a little bit, and then work towards that longer term goal. So sometimes we need a plan, like a right now plan and a long-term plan. I worked with another military spouse that was she was a makeup artist, but it closed down during COVID. So we had to come up with like a plan B. Sometimes you have a plan A and then down the road, I want to do this. But a lot of times our plan A can lead into our plan B. So it's about kind of having that broad vision and then taking a little step, like maybe working a part-time job, and then with the vision of it becoming full-time when your little kids are older or something like that. But we don't have to do it all at once. We just have to take that first baby step and really believe we're worthy of going for that big, longer-term career plan. I joke around with my kids. I always say every day, the world is your oyster. And I even bought a mug that says the world is your oyster. And that was my quote for this slide, because I feel like you have to just really believe that there is opportunity out there. Like there's great organizations like MilSpouseFest that want to support you to find what your big dream is. Next slide. Sometimes people say, well, I want to have a plan A and a plan B, but I just don't even know where to start. They say, I feel like, like I'm just all over the place. I don't know. I can't even think about what I want. Should I volunteer at my kid's school? Should I go back to I started college. Should I go back to college? Should I do this? Should I do that? And we're just all over the place. So what I want you to do for a minute, it's a little airy fairy coachy, but I want you to close your eyes and I want you to just imagine your ideal workday. You don't have to know the particulars. This is just fun. It's to play around with. And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to imagine you're waking up in your bedroom, if you sleep in a bedroom. And I want you to think about, ideally, what does your morning routine look like? Like, is it not what is reality? So reality might be I hit snooze 3 times and, kids are in my bed and I'm running around and I'm helping my spouse. But in reality, if you had the ideal job life, what does your morning routine look like? Like you wake up, what does your room look like? You go into your wardrobe. I want you to think about, do you have a capsule wardrobe? Do you have dress clothes? Do you have scrubs? Just keep your eyes closed and think about how this ideal morning is going to go. Maybe in your ideal morning, you're pouring yourself some sort of warm drink. Think about making that drink and getting ready for your work day. And then I want you to think about packing your bag for work. What kinds of things are you bringing to work? Are you, is it an intellectual job where you have like a bag and you have some, just imagine, are you bringing books? Are you working outside? So you have to dress warm. Are you working in a cubicle at a big company? Are you driving? Are you dropping your kids off at school and then you're coming home to work on Zoom on your laptop? Just think about what would be ideal, like what feels really, really awesome, and Think about the work skills that you're doing. Now, a lot of people have had jobs they hate, but there's something about that job they hated that they liked. They might have hated their micromanaging boss, but they loved, doing the creative social media side. Or they hated the hours because it interfered with daycare pickup, but they loved one of the tasks that they were doing. So think about the work task that would just be so ideal. And then think about what you're going to do for your lunch hour. Is it a sit by your desk and eat the healthy lunch that you cooked in the morning? Is it that you're meeting colleagues out for lunch because you're really social and you know that you need to be out of your house and having a lunch break with a couple coworkers? And then I want you to think about after lunch, you're going back to this workplace and you don't have to know the particulars, but is it a big brick building? Is it outside? Do you work at the mall? Do you work in a healthcare facility? Just use your imagination and think about your afternoon at work. And then I want you to think about you're getting in your car or if you bike to work or some kind of vehicle and you're coming back for your evening. I want you to think about what your simple evening routine looks like. How are you transitioning from work to your social, whatever else is going on in your life, if you have a spouse and kids and things like that. And what does that evening look like? And then think about your evening plans. Like, does it include working out, time with family, time with a spouse? And this, of course, is all ideal. And then you're going to open your eyes, and you can do this for yourself at a later date, because I know it's hard to do on Zoom, but open your eyes and just think about what from that vision feels like something that I could do now. Now, maybe I visualize myself working this huge 6-figure job with a suit that I don't own yet. And I came home and this perfect nanny had already made dinner for the kids. That sounds like a really good vision. But whatever it is, you think about a piece of that vision. Now, I had someone that said, I thought about running on the beach as their morning thing. Now, that's not my thing to get up and run, but if it's your thing, then maybe you take like a seashell and you put it on your desk and you remind yourself that you're working towards this ideal. In my ideal vision, I was at home and I was writing. And so I made a pretend book. I haven't written a military spouse book yet, but I made a pretend book. And I literally just wrote, be all you can be too, because I imagine that being my book someday. So it's like, take something from your ideal day and make a symbol so you can look at it and draw on that vision into your life now. I'm going to turn to the next slide. And now that you have this general idea of I want to be in scrubs, I want to be in my pajamas working at home, I want to be wearing really nice clothes and socializing with other women or men. So now you have this general idea. Now what I want you to do is get out a piece of paper. And I think this is even more valuable than a lot of resources that I have for helping people find jobs. So some resources that I have are on my website, militaryspousecoach.com, under resources. And there's some great books like Do What You Are, which gives you a quick and dirty Myers-Briggs assessment and gives you some ideas of what to do based on your personality. But before you take all those career tests, I think a really great thing is to get a piece of paper out and write 3 columns. And in the first column, I want you to write what you value most. And to think of your values, you want to think of where you spend your time and where you spend your money. People say, I don't know what I value. And they'll say, but I go to the gym every day and I spend money on buying my kids healthy food. So it's well, you're probably into health and fitness and those type of values. Other people's values are I really value flexibility. I would rather have the time at home and make less money. So you're going to jot down 2 or 3 or 4 of your top values, the things that are most important to you: family time, health, whatever that list of things are. Then I want you to write in the middle column of your paper, skills that you're motivated to use. Some things that you consistently, and this might be what other people compliment you on. It might be things that you don't recognize as a skill. Everyone tells you you're organized. Everybody tells you you're a great speaker. Things that other people are telling you are often clues to what your skills you're motivated to use. And the reason I say skills you're motivated to use is because you don't have to be good at the skill. You just have to be motivated to get better at the skill. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a great speaker, but I'm motivated to get better in those things. So I want to write those down. I'm a great cleaner. I clean my kitchen like a queen, but I don't want to be a cleaning lady. So it's not just what you're good at, it's what you're motivated to get better at. I wanted to go join Toastmasters, which was a reasonably priced professional organization in my town, to get better. Then the last section is your interests, what interests you. And then what you could do is you could take the value, skills, and interest, and you can wrap them up into, now I want to set some goals. So every time I write down goals, I say, we can go to the next slide. We can stay on the next slide. And we're going to write down 3 goals. Now, sometimes we write down too many goals, or we try to be smart. No offense to people that love the SMART goal, but I feel like the SMART goal isn't that smart for me because I can't even remember what SMART stands for. So what I like to do is when I see the seasons changing, and I'm in New England, and even when I was in San Diego, I could see the seasons changing. So you kind of know when it's summer versus when it's fall. When you write down a New Year's resolution, usually you're not doing the New Year's resolution the whole year. You're not working on it. You think, oh, I can put that off. I have the whole year. And if you do a goal for this week, you're like, oh, shoot, some stuff came up and I'm too busy to do the goal this week. So I find that having a health, wealth, and relationship goal when it's a new season is a simple, easy way to set goals. So it's a new season. I want you to get out a whiteboard that you can see and put by your desk or your kitchen and just write 3 simple goals. Because it's a new season and you can work on it for that season. You have 3 months to work and make the goal fun. My goal is to drink more water. So I really thought about the goal. I said, how do I make the goal easy? Now, don't laugh, but opening this and going like this and moving my head, it's like a lot of work. Getting a water with a straw, easier. So now I put this in my car, and when I drive to work and back, it's easy, and I'm drinking more water. So, I mean, it could be, and a whole season of you drinking more water, you're going to drink water the rest of your life. So I want you to pick easier goals. Every season, do a new goal and make it fun and simple. Next slide. So we talked about this morning routine. You want to set yourself up to get this new job of yours. You want to pretend that you're already working and make a really simple morning routine that fits your new lifestyle, because as you pretend that you're working or spend your day, it's a full-time job to get a job. So you want to spend your day as if you are working and kind of set up your body and your mind to be working. And I think a really easy way to start the day is what I call an ABC goal. Start with your affirmation. I am worthy of this amazing job. I like ABC because it's simple. B, a breathing or stretching exercises, whatever else you think is like super important to start your day with. And then C, for me, it's coffee and journaling. I journal quick my to-do list, and I don't commit to having to do that to-do list, like making it really, really long. I just pick 3 simple things that I want to get done that day. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about your big rocks, because this will help you with your to-do list, and it will help you decide what career to do. So I got this idea of big rocks from a story that I heard that a professor had asked his students what to do. He takes an empty container like this. So this is your life, an empty container, and he fills it with these big rocks. And then he says to the students, is this jar full of rocks? And like, I would have said yes, but he said, well, it's not full. You think it's full, but it's not full, because then he got out a container of smaller rocks, and he put the smaller rocks, and they drizzle all around the big rocks. So now the container looks pretty full, right? So now you say, okay, now even the medium-sized rocks go into the nooks and crannies of the big rocks. So then he said, okay, guys, now is it full? And they, now everybody's skeptical. So they say, well, maybe not. And it's not, because now there's some even smaller rocks that you pour, and it really, all these go all around the edges. So there's tons of little nooks and crannies with these rocks. And then you say, well, now is it full? And of course, there's some sand. Now we can fill it with sand. And now it's incredibly full. Then he says, well, now is it full? And everybody's, now we're super skeptical. We've got the big rock, the medium rock, the tiny rock, the sand. Now he says, guess what? We can pour water on top of the rocks. So what is the point of this? The point is that if we started with a container filled with water and we dumped all these big rocks on it, I would be soaking wet. So the point is that we have to do our big rock items first. Those values that I talked about, your family, your health, those are the big rocks that we want to put in. If our to-do list is filled with this sand, this was me going to Target every week and buying placemats and then a week later returning them because they didn't match my perfect kitchen that I wanted. If we spend all of our time in Target on this sand, we're not spending any time on the becoming a writer or becoming a life coach. We're not taking that one microscopic step. So what I did was I got a rock, and I found some rocks on, I think it was Oriental Trading, that have little sayings on them. And I give them to my clients, and they have a little saying like faith. You can get a rock and put whatever saying you want to have on it. But I put the rock on to remind me as I'm doing my planning, what are your big rocks? Like, what do you want to focus? What one step do you want to take towards becoming what it is that you want to become versus spending your time on little tasks that are not so important? Next slide. We want to start our day with like that big frog, that thing that's going to make us feel like if we get this one thing done, we did pretty awesome for today. It might be just sending one resume out or making one contact on LinkedIn or just doing that one step towards what it is that you want to be doing. Shoot me an email on LinkedIn. I have like 7,000 contacts. Say, I want to do XYZ. Do you know anybody? Like that could be your one little task of the day, but I want you to go out there and do one baby step and not feel like you have to have a whole Saturday. I do that too. I'll say, oh, I need all day Saturday to clean the garage. Well, you can spend just a couple minutes cleaning the garage. You don't need a whole Saturday. And what I want you to accept and not beat yourself up. And this is another thing where I kind of swam upstream and then I learned the raft way later, is that as you take steps, if you look at this life wheel, it's a circle and it has all the different sections of our life. It has career, significant other, in your environment, your finances. And as you take a step in one area, like as you get a job, the other areas kind of like go off kilter a little bit, which is normal and natural. And I feel like you have to know that that is okay. The goal is not to have a 10 on everything on this life wheel. It's for you to notice what's going on, for you to say, okay, as I go get a job, when I used to be home, I got to make home simpler. I might have to pull paper plates out for breakfast and use that. I might have to, recruit help from my spouse or my kids. I might have, your priorities are going to shift, and that's totally okay. And I call this telling on yourself. You have to kind of say, hey guys, I'm going to work, and these are the pros, but these are some of the other things that I'm going to need some support and added help with. And what I noticed is that military guys have an easy time asking for, hey, can you get my uniform dry cleaned, or can you make this to eat? Whereas we don't have as easy a natural, stereotypically, it's not good to put everyone into that category. Stereotypically, we have to, in addition to asking for help, also just make our life simpler. So think of ways where you can simplify the other areas of your life and know that you're not going to have a 10 in every other area as you put a little bit more energy into career. Next slide. So when I talk about making life easier, I mean, it's sometimes one of the keys to getting a job is making all those other areas of your life a little bit more coherent. So it might be, and this takes practice, but it might be doing little things that make your later self love you, which is a saying that I use. My later self will love me if I just emptied the dishwasher right now. It takes 5 minutes and I don't want to do it, but when I get home from work, I'm going to be super excited. Like silly little things like that give us more energy. And we have to accept that as we do add more things into our life, we have to take out other things. So as you're thinking of, I really want to get this job and I really want to go talk to this person and have them help me to get this job. Sometimes it's about creating that space in your world so that you have room to put all that energy into learning a new skill and learning a new, sharing your values and leaning into this new interest. Next slide. I talked about how you can't get a job in a day. Like you can't say, okay, I have all day Saturday to just sit and apply for jobs. You're going to have other responsibilities and other things come up. So what I like to do is have some tools for how I'm going to seek out a new job. And I love this Pomodoro technique. And it's about you work for 20 minutes on getting a new job, and then you take a 5-minute break. And if you just do 20 minutes a day, if that's all you have time for, then you do that. If you have a whole afternoon for job hunting, you can do 20 minutes, take a 5-minute break, do 20 minutes, take a 5-minute break. And I think it's a really good way to make some progress. I'll tell people, like I'll see a client that wants to find a new job, and then she'll say, I sent out a lot of resumes. And I'll say, well, what's a lot? And she'll say, well, I sent out 5 resumes. And I said, well, that's not really a lot. So she's like, well, I had no time. I had no time because I was doing this and this and this and this. And I said, you know what we're going to work on this week? We're not going to work on sending out resumes. We're going to work on making time. So we're going to clean your desk. We're going to, and like for 20 minutes, I want you to like clean your little, even if it's a section of the dining room, I want you to clean a little section off where you have your laptop and you have a notebook and you know where you applied, and you know who you talked to, that you said, let's go out and have a coffee and talk about what job I'm interested in. It could just be 20 minutes. I had someone that said, I want to work in the nonprofit field, but I have no experience other than once a year I was donating military spouse dresses. And I said, okay, 20 minutes, listen to a 20-minute audiobook on nonprofits. 20 minutes while you're folding the kids' laundry. I want you to listen to an Audible from your library on nonprofits. And that's just giving her 20 minutes. Now she has 20 minutes of knowledge and the dress for the military bound. She was collecting ball gowns for militaries. So it's like now on her resume, she can put the volunteer work, and she's brushing up on her skills to apply for other nonprofit type of jobs. So it's just like 20-minute increments can help you to make that progress towards getting this ideal job that you thought of in your vision. Next slide. Another way that you can do this is to draw a star and say for your week, in the middle of the star, you're going to write your focus. My focus is networking or job hunting or getting my resume done or whatever. And then on the edge of the star, you write the days of the week. So you write like Monday, you're going to reach out to people at your church and talk to them. On the second part of the star, you're going to write, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and connect with people. On the third day, you're going to work on your resume. Whatever it is, you put it around the star. And if you draw this in your kitchen, the really cool thing is that if you're sitting there and you're like, wow, I found a pocket of time. I found 15 minutes where the kids' baseball practice is canceled because it's raining. I can sit down for 15 minutes. You can look up at your star and you say, okay, it's Wednesday. I'm working on resumes. This is what I can work on. And it's really simple and easy. And you don't have to put it in your calendar. It's just, this is what you use. Your star is what you use during pockets of time. Next slide. Another thing I like to say when you're looking for a job and you have all these ideas, you're just at MilSpouseFest and you have a gazillion ideas and you're like, I want to talk to her from the exhibit. I want to talk to this other spouse that's doing what I think I want to be doing. I want to reach out to Krista on LinkedIn and send her a message of the type of work, these are my values and my skills and my interests. What ideas do you have? Sometimes you have so many ideas swirling in your mind that you're like, I don't even know what is the first step. And sometimes you don't even feel like taking the first step. But what I want to tell you is to think about your future self, your future, not the girl at the party that said, I don't know what I am, but the future. I want to be able to say, I'm a writer, I'm a life coach, I'm a makeup artist, I'm a photographer. You want that future self to be real. And what I say is think about it like when you go to the gym. You want to be fit, you're not quite there yet, but your future self is going to be excited. So you never feel like driving to the gym, or not that many people do. I mean, there's a few fitness people that love it, but I don't like driving to the gym. But when you drive home from the gym, you're like, wow, I'm pretty proud of myself that I went. You never like, oh, I'm so annoyed that I worked out. I'm so annoyed that I went and took a 10-minute walk. I'm so annoyed. So what I want you to do is think about with your job hunt, I want you to think about, you might be motivated after you take the action. You might not feel motivated to call someone, or when you clean your desk out and you find that old business card and you're like, oh, I want to ask, when I was stationed in San Diego, this person was doing what I think I want to be doing now. Let me reach out to her and have a virtual Zoom coffee with her. You might feel a little awkward, like, oh, I don't know. But once you make the contact, first of all, you're either going to get a step towards the job or you're going to get rejected. And if you get rejection is not rejection, it's just redirection. Rejection is redirection. So there's no fear. You just take those microscopic baby steps and trust that you're not going to feel like taking the baby steps. But once you take them, you're going to be super proud of yourself and excited and one step closer to being that, be all that you can be too, just like your spouse. So the next slide is trusting that in time this will come. And I want to leave some time for you guys to ask me questions. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you if you want to take one of those baby steps that only takes, it's that one of those 20-minute Pomodoro techniques, we together you're going to learn how to make a vision board like this. And so I made a vision board. Here's mine. Hope you can see it. And I have some samples on this slide of like, I want to swim with the pigs. I want to have a book for military spouses like LEK has. I want to go to the White House. So ask me anything. And then at the end, we're going to tell you how you can come up with your ideal job vision of what you want to be and what you think you might want to be, and how we here at MilSpouseFest can help you to make that vision board a reality. So Julie, do you have any questions coming in from any of our awesome military spouses?
So I like what Rachel had to say here. She likes to write a list each week of tasks and goals she wants to complete. And that way every week feels great seeing those items completed. So I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. And what I love is to write a really, really, really long list, but then each day just pick like 3 for that day. And then you have kind of your long list of what's going on, but then you have like 3 things that you do. Because sometimes if you write too long of a list each day, at the end of the day, you can feel bad that you didn't get it all done. That's why I like to have like kind of a floating list. And it sounds like that's what she has by having a list for giving herself the whole week. And a week is a really good time to do a to-do list, just like a season is a really good time to get a goal accomplished. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I think we need to steal more from each other as military spouses. There's a book called Steal from an Artist, and I heard them speak at USAA and it was amazing, but I started stealing their Steal from an Artist and saying, steal from other spouses. If you have a spouse that's out there working and doing it, figure instead of being like, how's she doing it? Say, how are you doing it? And talk to them and reach out to each other.
So Ellen writes in the chat, what if I don't know what I want to do at all? And she's just scared to take the steps. And first of all, I want to tell you, Ellen, that you are not alone, that there are a lot of people listening here today and that aren't on here today because they were too scared to come, that this is really common. Every time we PCS, we move and we have to start over again. And I don't know about some of you, but the older I get, I swear it gets harder every time.
Yeah,
I had to
much
move
harder.
Few years ago in 2017, we PCS to San Diego, and we had been living in Northern Virginia for 10 years. And that move just about undid me. And I did everything I could. And sometimes just things aren't going to go right. It took me a long time to get over that. But you know what? The first step is taking a step. You recognize that where you are. And the next step is talking to a friend, reaching out to somebody. Like Krista mentioned that, reach out over on Zoom meetings. You probably have connections. Put yourself out there. Like that's what we're going to talk about later in the Building Connections panel, is how to use networking to help you. And it's scary. And some of you are introverts, not like Krista and I that are extroverts. So, but generally military spouses are really friendly and fantastic. So
I think a good place for her to start, there's 2 things that came to mind. One is to go to my resources page that talks about different resources at militaryspousecoach.com. On the resources page under the career section, there's like some books that you can get at your library. You don't have to spend a lot of money, like Now Discover Your Strengths and things like that. I think another good thing is to just think about, capture compliments that you get throughout the week of things that people naturally tell you you're good at. Think about when you go to a bookstore, what section of the bookstore do you go to? Do you go to the gardening section? Do you go to the biography section? Do you go to the history section? Think about what books you naturally read. Think about if you were given $1 million, where would you donate that money to? That can help you figure out where your passions lie. Do you want to give that money to kids with cancer? Do you want to give it to military spouses? Do you want to, sometimes where you would naturally give helps you figure out your values. And that's a good starting point, along with what games you played as a kid, what section of the bookstore you went to. And people will tell me, why do I have to know what section of the bookstore I went to? And I said, well, do you have any books at home? And they'll say, yes, I have How to Be a Baker, Baking for Dummies, bake with gluten-free, bake special baking. And I'm like, well, maybe you should do something with cooking. And they're like, Krista, you're a career coach genius. So it's like, sometimes the answer of what we want to do for a job is like right in front of us, but we can't see it. So I love Julie's advice of like, talk to your friends and say, what do you see me doing? Like, what do you see me being good at? Send a text out to 5 people that say, hey, I'm doing some career searching. What skills do you see me having that are unique? And that can be a good starting ground. And shoot me an email. I mean, like, tell me more specifics later after this event. I want you to reach out and tell me, these are my values, these are my skills, these are my interests. What do you think? And I will look at your email and give you some books and professional organizations to reach out to and take that first step. So I'm really excited that you're here.
Thank you so much, Krista. So in the chat, Bethany just dropped the Eventbrite link to sign up for Krista's vision board session hosted by MilSpouseFest. So we want you to take that next step and commit to coming to this event with us. It's going to be on November 30th at noon Eastern, and we're going to drop this chat in the link, the chat again at the end when we do the wrap up. So you're going to hear from us again about this. But I really took a lot out of your session, Krista. I think this was fantastic. My favorite takeaway, and then we'll get to this. I want you guys thinking about this when we get to the end of the day. Remember what your takeaway was. My favorite takeaway was your future self will thank you if you do X. Like, we all have things we procrastinate doing. And so if you know that that's going to make you upset down the road or give you anxiety, like, just bite the bullet and do it now. So thank you, Krista, for that tip. I really think that you gave some really actionable items, and we'll see you again in a little bit, but you guys can drop into her booth at the networking time.